This presentation will cover Florida turfgrass species and characteristics and Florida landscape plants and characteristics, including fertilizer requirements and the effects of landscape design, mowing, irrigation, shade, wear, pests, diseases, and timing. We will discuss the effects of fertilization on these cultural aspects in addition to direct effects on water quality, including nutrient pollution, erosion and sedimentation, and water usage rates. At the end of this module, you'll be able to describe how turfgrass reduces effects of urban non-point source pollution. Describe 4 common lawn grasses used in Florida. Describe how environmental stresses affect plant health and how they can be managed. Describe 4 landscape best management practices to protect water resources. A healthy stand of turf and/or other landscape plants can help to control erosion and reduce runoff, but it must be properly established and maintained to protect water quality. The dense root and shoot system of healthy turf gives it an excellent ability to filter runoff and to take up applied fertilizer. Healthy turf is often referred to as nature's best water filter for this reason. It's important that turfgrass managers perform all cultural practices correctly to ensure a healthy, dense turf which can reduce effects of urban non-point source pollution. Advantages of St. Augustine grass. St. Augustine grass is the most widely used turfgrass in Florida and is adapted to most areas of the state. It, in general, has the best shade tolerance of any of our lawn grasses. St. Augustine grass has good tolerance to salts in coastal or reclaimed water and tolerates a wide range of pH. In high pH soils, the micronutrients iron and manganese may be limiting, which can result in chlorosis, yellowing of the leaf blades. Last, it is easy to establish in most parts of the state and grows vigorously during the long days and high. Disadvantages of St. Augustine grass. Like all of our warm season grasses, St. Augustine grass will not stay green without supplemental water through times of drought. It may not recover if the drought period is extended. St. Augustine grass has poor wear tolerance and it accumulates thatch, particularly with excess nitrogen and water. Chinch bug control continues to be difficult for homeowners and landscape managers. Captiva, a new cultivar, is less prone to injury from chinch bugs than other cultivars. Control of grassy weeds continues to be a problem. Currently, there are few, if any, post-emergence herbicide products labeled for control of grassy weeds in lawns. Advantages of ZOYSIA grass. ZOYSIA is becoming more widely used throughout the state. Empire, Jammer, and Ultimate Flora are some selected cultivars used in Florida. It should be mowed at approximately 2 to 2.5 inches with a rotary mower and grows densely. The leaf blades are much finer and smaller than St. Augustine grass, giving it a more carpet-like appeal. Research over multiple years has shown that ZOYSIA grass will stay green with less nitrogen than St. Augustine. High rates of nitrogen can increase disease issues and time required for spring green-up in central and north. Disadvantages of ZOYSIA grass. ZOYSIA grass is often thought to require less water than St. Augustine grass, but this is not true. Both need about the same amount of water. Its main insect pest is the hunting billbug. ZOYSIA grasses are susceptible to the disease called large patch, and fungicides may be required for management. Because of its slow growth, thatch can build up. Watch the nitrogen. Unlike many ZOYSIA cultivars, there are few reports of nematode damage in the cultivar Empire. Advantages of BAHIAGRASS. BAHIAGRASS can be described as having low maintenance inputs, with relatively low inputs of water, fertilizer, and pesticides required. It has a good ability to survive drought, thrive in sandy, infertile soils, and green up again when water becomes available. BAHIAGRASS establishes from seed or sod and is also a good choice for non-irrigated grounds or large areas. Disadvantages of BAHIAGRASS. BAHIAGRASS is not as popular as other species due to its image as pasture grass or low-quality grass. However, it can produce a nice lawn if properly maintained. It grows in bunches rather than from stolons, above-ground runners, so is not as dense or carpet-like as some other grasses. During long days, BAHIAGRASS produces seed heads about every 4 days and can provide some viable seed to the stand. You can see here that wear tolerance is not good. Advantages of centipede grass. Centipede grass is well adapted to the climate and soils of central and northern Florida and a common home lawn grass in the Florida Panhandle. There is now one cultivar, hammock, adapted to South Florida conditions. Centipede grass does very well in acidic soils, pH 4.5 to 6.5, and in fertile soils. It has fair shade tolerance and survives drought conditions by going dormant, which results in brown turf. It can be established from seed, sod, or plugs, and it spreads by above-ground stems called stolons. Maintenance and fertility requirements are low compared to other turf grass. Disadvantages of centipede grass. Centipede grass is highly susceptible to damage from plant parasitic nematodes, especially ring nematodes, and the scale insect known as ground pearls. Historically, nematode damage limited the use of centipede grass in South Florida's sandy soils. Most centipede grass cultivars have a naturally pale yellow-green color and are prone to iron chlorosis, yellowing of leaf blades. It has poor salt, wear, and freeze tolerance. Centipede grass stolons have high lignin content and contribute to a heavy thatch layer, particularly when high nitrogen fertilization rates are applied. The grass is often subject to centipede grass decline, a fungal disease. The decline is influenced by improper management practices, particularly shade tolerance. Good shade tolerance in turf grass is all relative. No grass will do well in deep shade or if there is not enough hours of sunlight available. Even shade-tolerant grasses need at least 5 hours of sunlight daily. In very shady areas, we recommend that an alternative shade-loving ground cover be used. Some species and cultivar selections are particularly well suited for use in shaded areas. St. Augustine grass is somewhat better than others for growth in partial shade, although it also performs well in full sunlight. Cultivars that exhibit the most shade tolerance include Seville, Del Mar, and Captiva. ZOYSIA grass is another good choice for partially shaded areas. Like St. Augustine grass, it also does well in full sunlight. Generally, any cultivar of ZOYSIA grass performs well in partial shade. BAHIAGRASS is not recommended for use in shaded conditions, but centipede grass tolerates some partial shade. Seashore paspalum and Bermuda grass do not do well in shaded situations. Mowing is one of the most important aspects of maintaining a good quality lawn. Mowing increases turfgrass density, producing a tighter lawn that is resistant to weeds. Proper mowing practices, along with fertilization and irrigation, can largely determine the success or failure of a lawn. The two main components of mowing are cutting height and frequency. Both of these factors depend on the turfgrass species, cultivar, and level of lawn quality desired. This grass has just been mowed too low, also known as scalping. This results in a short root system that has less ability to handle other stresses and soil loss. Turfgrass undergoes physiological stress with each mowing event, particularly if too much leaf tissue is removed. Effects of scalping, or removal of too much shoot tissue at one time, can produce long-term damage to the turf. This can leave turf susceptible to other stresses such as insects, disease, drought, and sun scald. Mowing cultural practices begin with picking up stones, sticks, and other debris before mowing to avoid damaging the mower or potentially causing injuries. As a rule of thumb, mowing should be performed often enough so that no more than 1/3 of the leaf blade is removed at any one mowing. For example, if a St. Augustine grass lawn is mowed at a height of 4 inches, it should be mowed when it grows to a height of 5.5 to 6 inches. Following this practice minimizes the effects of mowing on photosynthesis and helps to maintain the high percentage of leaf surface necessary for healthy root development. Do not scalp the grass if mowing is missed. Mow at a higher height and bring it down gradually. Leaving clippings on the ground will add nutrients and organic matter back to the lawn. As a provider of landscape services, you may not be in charge of mowing your properties, but this is a very important cultural practice that can affect turf health over the long run. Here are a few important cultural practices that can have a positive impact on turf. Don't mow when the grass is wet. This can clog the mower, produce a poor cut, and could be dangerous with a walk-behind mower or on steep slopes. Keep mower blades sharp. This can improve appearance and greatly reduce insect and disease infestation. Mowers should be washed off or at least blown off between properties to reduce the spread of pests. Avoid wearing open-toed shoes. Wear ear protection and eyewear while mowing. Mowing BMP. Never leave clippings on paved surfaces. Leaf blades contain nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus, both of which can cause pollution if they wind up in a water body. It's important to sweep or blow these clippings back onto the turf to reduce accidental pollution. Clippings should never be left on a paved surface and should never be blown down a storm drain. Storm drains lead to water bodies. Leaves, clippings, and other materials degrade quickly and release their nutrients or other pollutants into the water. Be sure to always blow or sweep leaf blades back onto turf and to pick up any branches, leaves, or other landscape debris. Inappropriate cultural practices can directly impact environmental systems. Direct effects of incorrect or poor cultural practices include excessive nitrogen and phosphorus loading to natural systems, often resulting in excessive plant and algal growth in water bodies, lower oxygen levels, fish kills, and other consequences. Over time, inappropriate cultural practices often result in unhealthy plants, which may indirectly impact environmental systems. Too little nitrogen makes plants weak, resulting in loss of vegetative cover. Loss of cover will eventually result in soil erosion and sediment buildup, increased pests, wasted water and nutrients, and reduced water quality. Welcome to Module 3, Mowing Operation and Maintenance. Mowing is an important maintenance operation, and when performed correctly, increases turf density, promotes plant health, and suppresses weeds. Naturally, turf grass undergoes physiological stress with each mowing, particularly if too much leaf tissue is removed. By integrating the recommended mowing BMPs located in the training manual, you can promote good plant health and an attractive lawn for your clients. Let's review the following recommended mowing BMPs. Inspect and adjust the cutting height routinely. Do so by setting the mower on a driveway or sidewalk, using a ruler to measure the distance between the ground and the blade. Mow turf when dry to reduce potential disease and machine clipping discharge problems associated with wet grass clippings. To prevent tire rutting, unintentional scalping, and wear patterns, mow in a different direction every time the lawn is cut. This reduces grain patterns by preventing grass laying over in the same direction. The growth habit and leaf width of a turfgrass species determines the optimum cutting height, frequency, and preferred mower type. Removing more than 1/3 of the foliage at one time causes plant stress and reduces the plant's ability to function. It's important to leave as much leaf surface as possible for photosynthesis, so use the highest acceptable mowing height. Quality of cut is important in the eyes of your clients. Sharpen mower blades frequently enough to prevent a ragged appearance to the turf. Periodically, clean mower parts after use to reduce rusting and extend the life of your machine. Reduce transport and spread of weed seed by blowing off mower decks between properties. Last, do not remove clippings from the lawn area. Instead, practice recycling and return nutrients to the soil. Do not direct clippings into bodies of water or onto impervious surfaces. Remove any clippings that are blown onto sidewalks, driveways, or other impervious areas. If clumping occurs, distribute the clippings by remowing, lightly raking, or using a blower. This concludes Module 3, Mowing Operation and Maintenance. Turfgrass faces many types of stresses from living organisms, including insects, disease, and weeds, and from environmental factors, including shade, salinity, wear, drought, and pH. All of these may alter the required management levels and health of the turf. Environmental stresses can be managed in two ways: choosing the most stress-tolerant species or cultivar for a particular area, and using proper cultural and management practices to alleviate the effects of the stress. Excess vehicular or foot traffic causes multiple injuries to turfgrass. For example, injury to grass shoot tissue, where physical damage to leaf blades appears as abrasions, tearing, or stripping of the leaf tissue. This injury results in death of the leaves and reduction in photosynthetic capacity. Another area that can be damaged by traffic is the root system because of soil compaction from the weight of the traffic. Wear tolerance recovery varies based on the capacity of the grass to tolerate traffic injury, the growth rate of the turf, which determines how long it will take the grass to recover from the injury, and the severity of the injury. Examples of wear injury may be abrasions, scrapings, and improper mowing heights. Drought stress tolerance can be defined as the ability of the grass to recover from extended periods of drought. All cultural practices, fertilization, irrigation, and mowing, need to be modified during extended drought periods. During extended periods of drought, all of our warm season grasses will go into dormancy. They typically turn brown and shut down much of their physiological functions. During this time, reduce plant stress and do not try to fertilize. Nitrogen encourages the plant to develop new tissue, forcing the grass to keep green and grow. That will cause further stress to the grass. Until water becomes available, withhold fertilizer or apply at low rates. Last, try to avoid other stresses such as salinity or wear. Once water is available, many of the grasses will resume growth and become green again, signaling that they have started functioning. Shade BMP. Increase mowing height in shaded areas to avoid thinning. To produce better turf grass growth in shaded situations, increase the mowing height. This allows for more leaf area to intercept as much available light as possible. In addition, leaf blades are longer and narrower in the shade, and a lower cutting height excessively reduces leaf length, which is not good for the grass. Increased mowing height also promotes deeper rooting, which is one of the key mechanisms for stress tolerance for turf grass. In many landscape settings, the turf grass receives a minimum amount of light for enough of the day to maintain adequate growth, even if an area is shaded for other portions of the day. In some situations, however, a grassed area may be shaded for most or all of the day, making it difficult for the grass to obtain either an adequate intensity or duration of light for growth. Avoid the effects of vehicle and foot traffic. Turf grass growing in shade is more easily injured by traffic and may not be able to recover. Water use is substantially reduced under shaded conditions, so adjust irrigation accordingly. If the irrigation system covers an area that is partially shaded and partially in sun, consider removing the sprinkler heads from the shaded areas and irrigate by hand when rainfall is inadequate. Reduce nitrogen in shaded areas. It encourages the plant to develop new tissue, which will add additional stress to a shaded plant. This concludes the turfgrass culture and species section. For more information, please visit hort.ifas.ufl.edu/yourfloridalawn. Next, we will discuss ornamental plants in the landscape. Many of the plants used in Florida vary widely in their adaptation. Choose grasses and other plants that are suited to the particular environment. The long-term value of a landscape depends on how well it performs for its particular objectives. Therefore, the first step in selecting plants for a landscape is to conduct a site evaluation, which may consist of studying planting site characteristics, such as the amount of sun or shade, salt spray exposure, soil type, pH, degree of soil compaction, slope, and water drainage. These characteristics will most likely differ between areas on the same property. For example, the area on one side of a structure may have significantly different light conditions than an area on the other side. Construction activities may have produced severe compaction, and non-native soils may have been used as fill in some areas. Such soils may need aerating or amendment to be suitable for planting. The second step is to select plants with attributes that match the characteristics of the planting site. Most importantly, prevent pest pressures and environmental stress. Does the site contain low fertility subsoils brought in for fill? Is the site irrigated? Identify the water supply. Reclaimed or well water may contain high levels of chloride, leading to salt accumulation in the soil. When planning or renovating a landscape, check with the reclaimed water provider regarding chloride levels, and if necessary, choose plants that are salt. Before digging the planting hole, call 811 to locate underground utilities in your landscape. Find the topmost root and treat root defects. Next, make the hole at least 1.5 times the diameter of the root ball. Gauge the depth of the planting hole so that the top root is 1 to 2 inches above the landscape soil. No more than 2 to 3 inches of the root ball needs to be above the soil unless the site is poorly drained. If the soil is poorly drained, plant even higher. If the hole was dug too deep, add soil and compact it with your foot. Breaking up compacted soil in a large area around the tree, out to the drip line, provides the newly emerging roots room to expand into loose soil. This will hasten root growth, translating into quicker establishment. Remove synthetic materials and begin to add backfill soil. Add water to the root ball and soil after adding the backfill soil. This is an effective means of eliminating air pockets around the root ball. Fill in any holes or depressions with additional backfill soil. Don't firmly pack backfill soil in an attempt to eliminate air pockets, because this could cause too much soil compaction. The water infiltrating the backfill soil will eliminate the large air pockets. The presence of small air pockets could even be a benefit, allowing more air to reach the roots. Finish by staking and adding mulch. It's important to remove staking materials after establishment. Even the healthiest landscape plants installed in the most ideal circumstances may need a substantial amount of time, care, and proper irrigation to become established. Establishment is the period of time it takes a tree or shrub to regenerate enough roots to stay alive without irrigation. During the establishment period, the roots are expanding out into the landscape soil, and the shoots and trunk grow more slowly than they did before transplanting. In most instances, established drought-tolerant landscape plants have a root system substantial enough to keep them alive with little or no supplemental irrigation. Establishment occurs more rapidly when irrigation is supplied in the correct quantity and frequency. Mulches provide beneficial effects to the environment by reducing off-site transport of sediment, nutrients, and pesticides to surface water or groundwater. Mulches help moderate soil temps as well as moisture levels in the soil. When mulch is appropriately applied, it will maintain an area mostly weed-free without herbicides. Maintain a 2 to 3 inch thick layer of mulch after settling. Apply a thinner 1 inch layer of mulch over the root ball if necessary, but keep it at least 10 inches away from the trunk. Research demonstrates that trees often perform poorly if turf grass grows up to the trunk. Turf and weeds rob trees of moisture and nutrients, and some produce chemicals that inhibit tree growth. Mowing equipment and string trimmers can damage trees. Tree trunks that are bumped by mowers or trees that are used as pivot points for turns are injured via contact. Mechanical damage to trees can cause progressively bigger wounds, since the trees are hit in the same general area repeatedly over time. In a worst-case scenario, the tree is girdled and dies. Those trees not killed are stressed, and the wounds end up as an entry point for disease and insect infestation. The whipping action of the nylon string on a trimmer can debark a young tree quickly, causing its demise. The careful use of string trimmers and mowers in the landscape is imperative, and there is no reason to use them around trees. Replacing the grass around the base of trees with mulch provides a buffer zone. The larger the mulched area, the less the turf near the tree is stressed by shade. The more room the lawnmower has to maneuver with ease, and the less the string trimmer needs to be used. Never pile mulch in a volcano-like manner against the trunk. This can rot the trunk and cut off oxygen to roots. It can keep vital irrigation and rainwater out, or it can keep roots too wet in poorly drained soils. On some trees, it causes stem-girdling roots to form. Some rodents, such as voles, can easily damage the trunk if mulch is piled there. Trees could decline from this problem. Why do we prune? Pruning is another important landscape maintenance task. Through the selective removal of shoots and branches, pruning a plant can improve its health, reduce the risk of failure, control growth, and enhance fruiting, flowering, or appearance. Pruning should be a part of routine maintenance and should not be delayed until the landscape is overgrown. However, close attention should be paid to proper timing, depending on the needs of various plants. Proper plant selection can eliminate many pruning requirements, especially for shrubs. Trees should not be pruned without a clearly defined objective. Removing the correct stems and branches to accomplish the specified objectives is as important as making the correct pruning cuts. Do! Make sure to leave the branch collar intact when removing any branch. Don't! Never make flush cuts. The method of pruning hedges depends on the type of hedge desired. Informal hedges generally consist of a row of closely planted shrubs which are allowed to develop into their natural shape. Annual pruning consists of thinning and heading just enough to maintain desired height and width. The desired appearance of a formal hedge is a hard outline of foliage from the top of the hedge to the ground. Two important factors to remember when pruning formal hedges. Hedges should be clipped while the new growth is green and succulent, and plants should be trimmed so that the base of the hedge is wider than the top. Hedges pruned with a narrow base will lose lower leaves and branches because of insufficient light. This condition will worsen with age, resulting in sparse growth at ground level and an unattractive hedge which doesn't give the desired privacy. Flowering hedges grown formally should be sheared after they bloomed, since more frequent shearing reduces the number of blooms. If the blooms are of secondary importance, pruning may be conducted at any time. It's rarely necessary to remove green fronds from a palm. However, if you wish to do so, only remove those drooping below an imaginary horizontal line drawn through the bottom of the canopy, as shown in the center figure. Growth will be slowed, and the palm can be damaged and attract pests and diseases when green fronds are removed from above this imaginary line. It's important to make the correct pruning cuts to accomplish the objectives. Look to either the IFAS Circular 853 found on the EDIS website or your local county extension office. There is also a web page maintained by Dr. Ed Gilman of UF IFAS that provides guidance with clear instructions, diagrams, and color photos. Mangroves are usually associated with wetlands and play a critical role in reducing flood damage by storing stormwater when it surges and releasing it slowly over time. Wetlands are invaluable in keeping water clean by acting as filters for pollutants, silt, and sediment. Fish, birds, and wildlife depend on wetlands for food, nesting grounds, migratory stops, and shelter. Wetlands are also valuable to the Florida economy as they support commercial fisheries and tourist-based wildlife watching. Certain areas of Florida contain 3 wetland native species of mangroves that are now protected by the 1996 Mangrove Trimming and Preservation Act. This law covers the trimming and alteration of the red mangrove, the black mangrove, and the white mangrove. There are detailed descriptions of each tree in the BMP manual. The major provisions of this act include definitions of the terms trimming and alterations, height reduction limits, prohibition of trimming mangrove roots, and the conditions when a professional mangrove trimmer must be used. And finally, dead or alive mangroves are covered by this law. It's important to understand that both the landowner and the individual hired are responsible for the appropriate trimming of mangroves. If in doubt, ask the closest Florida Department of Environmental Protection office. Let's take a moment to review a few scenarios occurring in a typical landscape. Does the image demonstrate a best management practice according to what you've learned so far in this presentation? Is this something you would do or not do? Don't. Use mulch, not grass, in areas such as this. Is this something you would or would not do? Don't. Do make appropriate pruning cuts as necessary. Avoid damaging other parts of the tree in the process. Is this something you would or would not do? Don't. Clippings contain nutrients and should be recycled on the lawn. The nutrients in clippings are pollutants when they end up in stormwater systems and water bodies. Do. Sweep or blow clippings off impervious surfaces and back onto the lawn. Now that you have reviewed the lawn and landscape module, you'll be able to describe how turfgrass reduces effects of urban non-point source pollution. Describe how environmental stresses affect turfgrass health and how it can be managed. Describe 4 common lawn grasses used in Florida, and describe 4 landscape best management practices to protect water resources. This concludes Module 3 on Lawn and Landscapes.